My name's Angelo, and welcome to We Want Picks. I'm going to break down the entire UFC Long Island fight card. We're going to talk about who we think wins, how they win, and who should and should not be in your DraftKings lineup. But before I jump in, let me show you what we've got going on at WeWantPicks.com. We have rolled out premium membership, and if you are a DFS player, we have a bunch of tools for you. So very quickly, every week we're going to give you the ownership projections. So if you are big into tournament play, multi-entry play, then ownership projections are very important for you. That will be here every single Friday or Saturday morning, depends when those are released. And then what we've also done is we've taken every single price category and ranked those fighters based on their value. So 9,000 and over, Sumaderji is great value. If we go all the way down, 7,100 and under, well, we think Dalcha is probably the best play at that price point. So full DFS tools and content. And then if we go over to Quick Picks, we have our favorite fighter right here under DFS. We have our favorite play, our dog play, our value play, and our fade of the week. Head over to WeWantPicks.com, click the Become a Member button up top, jump in, sign up, and that is brand new, fresh content week in and week out. Tons of tools like parlay tools, odd tools, and things like that to help you make money, help you build a winning lineup. And let's get back to it. So we're going to break down this entire card, and we're just going to do this in fight order. So opening up the card, we have Jessica Penne taking on Emily DUCOTE. DUCOTE's a new UFC fighter. This is a UFC debut, so there is no content here. She is a slight favorite. She's fighting Jessica Penne. So let's break them both down. Jessica Penne, she's a vet at this point. But you see there's a 4-year gap from the loss to Taylor and the win over Godinez. She's had 4 years away, and then she has since come back. She is on this 2-fight win streak, but let's keep in mind, this Godinez, this was not a win. That was a bad decision. She should have lost that fight. The win over Karolina Kowalkiewicz was a great win. That was a fantastic win. Jessica Penne is a tried and true vet. She's okay everywhere. She's not amazing anywhere. She's okay everywhere. Emily DUCOTE, if you don't know who she is, DUCOTE, I'm like adding some twang like she's ethnic. She's not. Anyway, she is stepping up on, it's not short notice, it's a full 6 weeks, but that is somewhat short notice nowadays. She is making her UFC debut, but she's got plenty of experience. She had 8 fights in Bellator. She's the Invicta champion. She's a really slick counter striker with legitimate power and very good wrestling. I do think Emily wins. I think Emily could probably score a lot of points and win as well. But Jessica Penne, $8,000, tried and true vet, and this recent trend of underdog fighters winning in the opening fight, this is a tough one to pick. I don't think I'll have either one of them in my lineup because I just, that middle price point is a great price point. There's just too many questions there. Then we have Dwight Grant, and he's taking on Dustin Stoltzfus. Dwight Grant, he's a long, clean striker. He uses range really well. He's got a ton of power, solid takedown defense, can be a bit chinny. Dustin Stoltzfus is a busy striker. He also has very real power. He is a BJJ, it's actually a no-gi version of grappling, black belt, and a BJJ brown belt. He's got solid jiu-jitsu despite, a couple of these submission losses he's coming off of. But let's look at Dwight Grant. I personally think Dwight Grant wins this fight. I also think $8,900 is too much to spend on him when Dustin Stoltzfus is as good as he is. He is coming off of this KO to Condanzo. This was only about a month ago. This was not very long ago at all. Before that, he had the loss to Trinaldo. That could have very easily been a win with a little more effort. But if we look at his opponent, Dustin Stoltzfus, $7,300. Listen, I think Dwight wins. But if you're on the Dustin Stoltzfus side, $7,300 is a fantastic price point. Yes, he does not have a win in the UFC. But let's look at what he had. Dawkins lost a grappling match. Vieira lost a grappling match. This is a world champion grappler. And Gerald Meerschaert was beating the piss out of him, dominating, and then, got submitted. That's what happens to him. He would have scored 80 some odd points, potentially even more in that win. So Dustin Stoltzfus is a good grappler, certainly a better pure raw grappler than Dwight Grant is. Striking-wise, that's where it gets interesting. I think Dwight Grant's going to have more power, be the better striker, but if Dustin lets his hands go, keeps good pressure, he could win. $7,300, he's probably the better value of the two, even though I think Dwight Grant wins. Then we got Dustin JACOBY versus Da Un Jung. What's interesting about this is Dustin JACOBY is now a betting underdog. So the line has switched. He's a very good standout striker. If we scroll back, you'll see some losses, but look at the year difference. 2011, 2012, all of this time between 2012 and 2020 when he came back, that was all kickboxing. He was a professional kickboxing during that gap, and he did pretty well, and then he came back to fight MMA. So listen, he is on this 6 fight unbeaten streak, but his opponent is on a 16 fight unbeaten streak. But what's important to note here is Dustin, he's not a knockout artist, right? He's got this one over Darren Stewart, but he was taken down a few times there. He's more of a busy striker. He'll light up your legs, he'll work the body, he'll work the head, and he'll just outpoint you. And he'll do it really, really well with no issues. He did not look great in this last fight, but he was injured in that. But if we look at his opponent, so I think Dustin wins, and Dustin will be in my lineup, and cut to the chase there. But if we look at his opponent, Da Un Jung, here's the reality of it. The dude is on a 16-fight unbeaten streak. I say that because he had the draw with Sam Alvey, and people are trashing him for that. But the reality is he manhandled William Knight. Straight up manhandled William Knight. It wasn't even close. He bodied him. 8 takedowns, 12 minutes of control time. I mean, that's an insane performance. And then he knocked out Kennedy Nzechukwu, who's a striker. So we've seen him do everything really well. I think that's why he's become the betting favorite. If you think he wins, $7,900 is phenomenal value. I think Dustin's leg kicks and his striking acumen is going to be enough to keep Da Un Jung away. So I like Dustin to win. Dustin will be in my DraftKings lineup, but the reality is Da Un Jung is very, very good and should not be slept on. If he can get the takedowns, maybe he'll have some luck, but Dustin gets up really, really well. Then we have Bill Algeo, and he's taking on Herbert Burns. Herbert Burns has come back after a 2-year layoff. He's the younger brother of Gilbert Burns, but Bill Algeo is a fast-paced striker. He's got that like karate style, but he's got okay defense. And he's got surprisingly high output. He's got 6 significant strikes per minute average, and he just likes a dirty stand-up war. And he's coming off this win over Joe Anderson Brito, and I put a lot of stock in that win. That was a fantastic win. That was a fantastic win. Joe Anderson Brito is very, very good. And he's fighting Herbert Burns. I'll say this. Herbert Burns is obviously a very good fighter. He's training with his brother. He's been around, high-level MMA coaching and training and partners for a very, very long time. He's been away from the cage for 2 full years. With that being said, he is talented, but I do think he's essentially submission or bust. And I hate to say that, but I just don't see him being able to take down Bill Algeo and submit Bill Algeo. Bill Algeo is a BJJ black belt himself. So I can see Bill avoiding the submission. I could just see him dominating the striking. With that being said, there are a lot of question marks here. There's a lot. What is Herbert Burns going to look like after 2 years away? How much is he training? How much has he improved? 2 years is a very, very long time. So Bill Algeo, tried and true, tough, going to come forward, going to have a high pace. I think that's enough to get the win. But Herbert Burns may come out and look like a killer. We don't know. He's been away for 2 full years. So I hate to be, I don't have a firm, do this, you'll win your lineup. But this is tricky. I like Bill Algeo quite a bit. That's a lot of money to spend on him, $8,700, but I do think he gets the win. I think Herbert Burns is a bit submission or bust, and I don't see the submission. So I'm going to go with Algeo here, but certainly Burns is $7,500. If you think he's making those improvements, then go for it. Then we have what we'll call the people's main event. We got Jack Shore, and he's taking on Ricky Simone. Grappler versus grappler. It's literally that simple. Grappler versus grappler. Jack Shore is a medium favorite here in DraftKings, just a couple $100. But in bets, he's a good-sized favorite, 3-1 on some books. And I'm surprised by that because Ricky Simone will wrestle. He will come at you, and he will wrestle nonstop. And I know Jack Shore will as well. I mean, he's had multiple takedowns in every single fight, scores really well in every single fight, and he lands well. His striking is solid. I get it. Jack Shore is a very good fighter. I completely get it. But I do think Ricky Simone and that insane pressure is a big, big problem. I mean, look at this. 6 takedowns in a loss. 7, 6, 2. And that was a very, very solid knockout over a tried and true vet in Rafael Sunsao. So I actually like Ricky Simón to win this fight. I will have Ricky Simón in my lineup, $7,800. Look at this, 6 takedowns and a loss. He scored 61 points in a loss. Now, that's versus a striker, and this is very different. He'll be fighting another grappler. And this could look a lot like Ronnie Lawrence versus Kakramanov last week, where one of them's just getting bodied over and over and over. I trust Ricky. I trust good old American wrestling to come forward, shoot a million takedowns, and get it done. I like Ricky Simón in this fight. I will have him in my lineup at $7,800. Then we have Punahele Soriano taking on Dalcha Lungiambula. Look, Punahele's coming off 2 losses. That Brendan Allen loss was straight embarrassing. Just straight up embarrassing. He lost a striking match to a grappler, and I think Brendan Allen might have stepped up on short notice in that fight as well. He should have knocked Brendan Allen out, right? The same way Chris Curtis did, but he didn't. Then he lost to Nick Maximov. This is a very different fight because he actually looked good striking, but he gave up 11 takedowns, which is absurd. Considering he's a D3 All-American wrestler, he gave up 11 takedowns. And he is fighting Dalcha Lungiambula. Dalcha Lungiambula is a very good striker himself. Lots of power, very fast. He's got some offensive wrestling. Look at this. 2 takedowns against Baralt, 4 takedowns against Daquan Townsend. That was his UFC debut. He had a takedown in that fight against Brundage, and that's what lost him the fight. He was about to knock Brundage out. Like, it was very, like, everybody was like, oh, in 30 seconds, Brundage is going to be out cold. And then for some reason, Dalcha shoots a takedown, gets a takedown, and then gets guillotined. That was just poor decision-making. This is a tough fight. A lot of you love Punahele Soriano. And you know what? In the striking exchanges in his last fight, he looked fantastic. I do think Dalcha is incredibly live here. I will probably have him in my lineup at $7,000 because he is a tough, he's not the most durable human being in the world, but he's a tough, very skilled fighter. So I don't necessarily see him getting knocked out. Punahele has insane power. I could see Dalcha getting a knockout. I mean, one of these guys is going to look fantastic. The other one, not so much. So, and probably cut. So these guys are fighting for their careers. I like Dalcha. I think he's live here. Punahele, like Herbert Burns, is submission or bust. Punahele is first round or bust. He's not winning these decisions. He's not winning these longer fights against talented guys, right? He's losing those, but he always looks amazing in that first round. I like Dalcha in this matchup. And that takes us to the main card. We got MIESHA Tate versus Lauren Murphy. This is another really tough fight. MIESHA Tate is coming down in weight to 125 pounds for the first time in her career. And she's fighting Lauren Murphy, who's a bully. If MIESHA Tate is big and strong and a good grappler, she will win this fight and she will score a ton of points doing it. I mean, frankly, MIESHA Tate scoring 64 points in this 5-round loss was actually pretty solid. But this loss is what worries me. So she looked great against Marion Reneau. Looked great. Great. But that was a very old gym teacher, right? This win or this loss against Ketlin Vieira, she only got 1 takedown. She was 0 for like 6 before she finally got the 1 takedown. She didn't have solid control time once it got there, but the reality is she was just a step behind. Her striking wasn't there. The takedowns were not solid. She just did not look good. And I think she will look good in this fight. I do think the weight change is going to be good for her. Let's take a look at Lauren Murphy. She's got to be the bully. She can't let Lauren Murphy bully her because Lauren Murphy is a solid bully. And she had this incredible 5-fight, 5-fight win streak before she earned that title fight against Shevchenko. But let's look at her losses. Eubanks, she got out-grappled. Chikagian, she beats everybody. Carmouche, out-grappled. McMahon, out-grappled. And that's the point. She loses to grapplers. So if MIESHA Tate comes in here and grapples, it's hers, and she will dominate. And therefore, if you think that's what MIESHA Tate does, she 100% should be in your lineup. She's going to score a ton of points. But Lauren Murphy is tough, strong, gritty, and she could do her own bullying and forward pressure. So Lauren Murphy's another one of these live $70-something hundred underdogs. Then we got Jourdain versus Burgos. Charles Jourdain, one of the most entertaining guys on the roster. He is kill or be killed, essentially, except he actually is not stopped very often, but he's a killer for sure. He has 1 single decision win in his entire career. He's very good at striking, very flashy striker. He's a good grappler, an opportunistic submission guy. He'll snatch stuff up. If he sees it, he'll just go ahead and snatch it up, just like this Lando Venata guillotine that he got there. And he is fighting, where the hell did I go? He's fighting Shane Burgos. And Shane Burgos is a very good boxer, a busy boxer. Let's look at these strike numbers. 232 against Billy Quarantillo, 148 against Josh Emmett, and there was a takedown in there. 161 against Amir Khani, 147 against Swanson. The Amir Khani one didn't even go to a judge's scorecard. That's the kind of volume that this guy brings, and I do think that is the difference. I think Shane's going to come forward, insane volume, and win this fight with that volume. It may look something like this Billy Quarantillo win. And at $9,000, if it looks like the Billy Quarantillo win, it's absolutely worth it. It's absolutely worth it. But he's fighting Charles Jourdain. Insanely dangerous Charles Jourdain. So it's going to be a tricky fight, but it is striker versus striker. Shane eventually, I mean, this Barboza, he was knocked out on his feet. Like, that was in it. Go watch that zombie knockout. But I do think Shane wins. There's not a lot of guys at $9,000 that I like on this card, but Shane, I go back and forth. He's probably going to be worth it because of that pressure, and you see what he scores in those fights. Then we got Matt Schnell taking on Sue Mudaerji. Matt Schnell is an interesting fighter. He's a very good counter striker. He's got solid BJJ, and he does a really good job getting you to come forward so that he can plant, throw back, and then just repeat that cycle. He's a very talented fighter. You'll see this loss to Brandon Royval and be like, oh, wow, he gets submitted. You know, he had Brandon Royval on ice skates. He had him almost out cold. Brandon Royval should have lost that fight and then somehow got his life together and snatched up the submission. But he had Royval dead to rights in that fight. And he's fighting Sue Mudaerji. And Sue Mudaerji is interesting because, I mean, they did Sue Mudaerji. It's just Sue Mudaerji or Sue Mudaerji. Either way. I can't really be the name police the way I'm butchering half of these names, but Sue Mudaerji is a fast striker. He's got laser pinpoint accuracy, and he has his own solid volume. Nothing looks like Shane Burgos' volume, but his volume is solid as well. I like Sue to win this fight. I just think he's going to come forward, that pinpoint accuracy, his pressure, his pace. I think that's the difference because Matt Schnell's counter striking is very good, but I think he's just going to get out lasered. I think Sue's going to have the pinpoint. Bang, got him, perfect. Bang, got him, perfect. I don't see him overcommitting. I see solid footwork. So I like Sue to win, $9,100. He's probably my second favorite fighter at that high price point. And then speaking of my first favorite fighter at the high price point, $8,600 for Muslim Salikov. I like that. I will spend that. Salikov's a good striker. He can also grapple as well. He hits really hard. He uses the wrestling when he needs it. I mean, he's got 3 takedowns against Tarth Bowley, 2 takedowns against Trinaldo. He's a very, very good, well-rounded fighter, and he's fighting Jing Lang. And here's the thing. He got dominated by Chimaev, dominated by Neil Magny, but he is a good fighter. This Ponzinibbio wins. That's a very good win. That's a very good win. He is a good fighter, and he does have power in his hands. He's got an awkward striking style, but I just think Salikov's striking should be able to hang, and that wrestling will be the difference. I mean, Jing Lang was embarrassed against Chimaev. Chimaev had him up in the air and was talking to Dana White before he dropped Jing Lang and finished him. So I do like Salikov to win this fight. I like him at that price point. I will be spending the money on Salikov. We got our co-main event, Amanda Lemos taking on the karate hottie Michelle Watterson. This fight's at 115 pounds, 115. That is 10 pounds less than Amanda Lemos' last fight. She made weight. She looked fine. I mean, she needed a towel, I believe, but she made weight. She looked fine, and she's going to be a monster at 115 pounds. An absolute monster. She hits like a truck. She's got very good jiu-jitsu. Her last performances were kind of trash, though. Jessica Andrade submitted her standing, and Angela Hill, that was a war that a lot of people think she lost, but she's an incredibly dangerous fighter. She's fighting the karate hottie. And let's look at this. Decision. You see all these decisions? Look at them all. She's got 1 submission loss. Everything else is a decision. And the karate hottie's very good. Very good. A full year away. 115 pounds is her weight class, but she's still going to be undersized. She's still going to be small compared to the very large Amanda Lemos. There's nothing dangerous about Michelle Watterson. Nothing. And that's the problem here. She has to stick and move the entire fight to win that fight. And maybe she can. She's very athletic, very versatile, very fast. But she needed to do that against Rodriguez, and she wasn't able to do that then. I don't see her being able to do it now unless Amanda just gasses and looks miserable because of the weight difference and the weight cut. I see Amanda dominating this fight, winning this fight. $9,400 is a stupid amount of money to spend, but I don't love a lot of people at this price point, so I may end up spending it. And then we got Brian Ortega taking on Yair Rodriguez in the main event. Listen, if you think Brian Ortega gets this to the ground when he wants to, then he wins. Throw him in your lineup. It's literally that simple. The problem is Brian Ortega has a 24% takedown accuracy. His takedowns are not very good. And yes, he took Volkanovski down twice, but one of them was basically a slip takedown, and the other one's a leg kick catch or something. I'm sure you'll correct me, and I might be remembering that wrong, but these are not clean, beautiful double legs where he's just taking people down. And he dominated Korean Zombie, looked like a killer. Dominated Frankie Edgar, looked like a killer. Was smoked by Max Holloway. At one point in that fight, Max Holloway was grabbing Brian Ortega's hands, holding them up, and then throwing hooks to show him how to defend. That's how bad of a beating that was. Volkanovski murdered him outside of, he did get dropped. He did get almost submitted. Outside of that, and it sounds like a lot, but in 25 minutes, it was not a lot. He was destroyed. And my point is, Brian Ortega is a phenomenal, dangerous grappler that can submit almost anybody. He doesn't have the wrestling to get it there, and his striking is improving, but it's not amazing. And he is fighting Yair Rodriguez, who, yes, is coming off of this loss to Max Holloway, and before that had a couple years away from the cage. But this loss to Max Holloway, he looked good. 81 points. 81 points in a loss. Think about that. That's how competitive. He landed 186 strikes. Got a takedown. Got a reversal. I think Yair Rodriguez wins this fight. Yair Rodriguez will be in my DraftKings lineup. He's such a dangerous striker that I just think he's just going to touch up the very tough, but the not very skilled striker or wrestler, Brian Ortega. And I'm going to look really stupid if Brian Ortega takes him down and submits him in 10 seconds. Of course, I'm going to look dumb as hell. But I do think Yair Rodriguez, his versatility, his strike, I think all of that is just too much for Brian Ortega. Yes, he lost to Max Holloway, but he looked very good doing it, and that was after a 2-year layoff. Guys, let me know what you think. Don't forget to join our free Discord. Share your picks, share your plays there, and become a premium member for all of the perks. Again, we have a full DFS reference guide where we have all the DraftKings ownership numbers. We rank every single fighter by price point. We have our favorite dog, our favorite value play, and all sorts of other betting content and other DFS content. WeWantPicks.com. Click the Become a Member up top. I'll see you guys on Saturday.